please don't get off this tape and go, oh, I know what the real problem is. The real problem is you. The real problem is your decisions. The real problem is your lack of protection and lack of honor and cherishing your wife, okay, and the decisions you've made, whether it be pornography, self-gratification, affairs, prostitutes, whatever it is. That's the problem. Stay focused. Now, here's good news, guys. When you're the problem, you can be the solution. If you keep trying to share the problem with her, you're putting it in hands that you don't control. Now, let me start off with a story, because it'll help you maybe understand what I'm about to share with you. And this is really important for at least 30 to 50% of you. Okay, so really pay attention. If this doesn't apply to you, fantastic. But for those it does apply to, it's super important. Okay, and if you're not using our workbook, I strongly recommend you get the Helping Her Heal workbook. It's going to help you really think through these issues. Now, two women get in a car accident, and they have similar impact as far as wounds and traumas and what happened in the accident. The first woman is a triathlete. She's extremely well in her nutrition. She's extremely flexible because of stretching. She does weight training. She's aerobically a monster. I mean, she can run. She's in great shape. The other one is an anorexic. She's starved, nutritionally depleted. She has no strength. She has no cardio. Now, they both get in the same car accident, but they will recover differently. See, the second one is experiencing double trouble, the accident and the deprivation. Now, what if she wasn't causing her deprivation? What if her spouse was causing the deprivation, not feeding her love, not nurturing her? And then, whammo, the car accident, your addiction, your infidelity, your story comes out. Now, real quickly, I want to talk to you about something called intimacy anorexia. This is a term I coined many, many years ago, but it's so important for some of you to understand. Now, as I go through this, men, I want you to think about yourself. There is a possibility your wife could have these characteristics. And if it was from the very beginning of the marriage, okay. But if it started to grow over the marriage, it might be in a reactive form. There's actually a DVD called Reactive Intimacy Anorexia. But also, our research shows that women who've experienced disclosure show more signs of intimacy anorexia after disclosure. So it might be a very temporary reaction to the trauma and something that she can heal from, okay? So I really want you not to focus on your wife, because intimacy anorexics like to blame and stuff like that. Please don't do that. If you're using the workbook, focus on your characteristics. If you see her, fantastic. You know, get the intimacy anorexia video, watch it for yourself with her, and she can self-identify. But please don't get off this tape and go, oh, I know what the real problem is. The real problem is you. The real problem is your decisions. The real problem is your lack of protection and lack of honor and cherishing your wife, okay, and the decisions you've made, whether it be pornography, self-gratification, affairs, prostitutes, whatever it is. That's the problem. Stay focused. Now, here's good news, guys. When you're the problem, you can be the solution. If you keep trying to share the problem with her, you're putting it in hands that you don't control, okay? Keep it on your side of the fence. It's really important. So intimacy anorexia, let me define that real quickly. It is the active withholding of spiritual and emotional and sexual intimacy. Now, I'm going to go through these characteristics really quickly. And honestly, I have a 50-hour training on intimacy anorexia, 50 hours, or really close to 50 hours. So there's a lot more on this, okay? So let me go through the characteristics, and then I'll give you a reference for this. Number one, busy. The intimacy anorexic stays so busy, they don't have time for their spouse. They might volunteer, they might be great in the neighborhood, the kids' school, but there's no time for just the spouse. Number two, they blame the spouse for pretty much most, if not all, the problems in the relationships. Very rarely will an intimacy anorexic say, I'm sorry, I'm wrong without a whole lot of pushing to get them to that point. They can't be bad, okay? Next, they withhold love, especially in the way the spouse wants it. If the spouse wants touch, they withhold touch. If they want praise, they withhold praise. If they want gifts, they don't even get birthday presents or Christmas presents. It's very sad. They withhold praise. They might praise other people. They might praise their spouse even in public. But privately, they never say, you're awesome, you're amazing, you're so capable, you're so smart. I'm so blessed to have you in my life. You're an amazing woman. That's very rare if someone's in intimacy anorexic. Spiritually, they withhold. They might be super religious. They might be the head of their religious community. They might be, even the leader of that community. But when they come home, they don't pray, worship, connect together. It's separate. It's private. It's my own thing. That's withholding spiritually. Okay? Sex. Withholding sex can show up in a couple ways. Because as a man, you might have sex, but you don't show up. You don't give your heart. Your eyes are closed. You're not connected. You're not talking during sex. She feels alone, used, and empty. Okay? That's one way of withholding sex, in that you're not totally present. Okay? Another way is, of course, just avoiding sex, putting it off, making her feel crazy because she even wants sex, once a month, once every 2 months. I mean, if your regularity based on what you're doing is probably less than a couple times a week, you're probably withholding. And so you want to consider that this might be the way that you also feed your addiction. You withhold from your wife, you give it to your porn or to your other situations, and then there's nothing there for her. So consider that. Feelings, being unwilling or unable to share your feelings with your wife, not opening your heart to her. Now, some of that's a skill, and you can learn that, and almost all our materials have the feelings exercise in it. There's a great book called Emotional Fitness that can help you significantly. Now, using anger or silence as a way to control in the relationship. If she starts questioning your judgment or asking you questions that make you uncomfortable, you can use anger to push her away, or you can stop talking. And I've had people not talk to each other for weeks, sleeping in the same bed. The cruelty of that is unfathomable. The criticism is next. Ongoing criticism or ungrounded criticism. Constantly maintaining distance in the marriage. Now, some people control and shame around money issues if they're intimacy anorexics, and some don't. Lastly, I want to share that if your spouse has said this, I feel like a roommate, it's a very common feature for a wife who feels married and alone, and that we have a whole set of materials called Married and Alone. Now, if you have 5 or more of these characteristics, there's a high probability that you are intimacy anorexic as well as having a sex addiction. And there are whole camps of sex addiction therapists who know nothing about intimacy anorexia. You have to get some information on this, okay?